Give a round of applause for our old driver. Good grief, that phrase echoed under the dazzling crystal chandeliers in front of 300 high society guests in Chicago. My daughter Emily was smiling radiantly, pointing directly at the pillar where I stood trying to hide my calloused hands under the lapels of an outdated suit. Driver, I am Samuel, owner of Hope Ranch, the man who sold 50 prize bulls, a lifetime's legacy just to pay for this party of pure vanity. They see me as a farmhand, smelling of manure and deserving to be hidden away. I bowed my head in a greeting, but it was not out of submission. I was calculating. You see an old farmer being publicly humiliated by his daughter, but you would never guess that this driver is the one who holds the key to destroying their entire life of fake luxury in the next 48 hours. They call this the Sweet 16 party for my granddaughter Sarah. But to me it feels more like a grand farce, a pretentious opera where I, Samuel, the old farmer who just sold his own flesh and blood, have to play the role of the silent doorman. Gosh, this ballroom is far too luxurious. It shines like a church built with money and lies. The crystal lights hang suspended. Every little gemstone is probably worth as much as a good prize bull. I stayed glued to the pillar right near the kitchen door, where the clinking of plates and the smell of cheap food mixed. Yes, they sat me near the kitchen door. They said it was a good location to observe the whole scene. I know the truth. It is a good location so that no one sees me. I am wearing a new black suit, the kind that Emily calls the simplest black, something that her hollow husband Michael suggested I should wear with a black bow tie to look a bit more like the staff. I see the difference clearly. My jacket is too wide at the shoulders, the sleeves too long compared to the tailored suits of these 300 snobs from Chicago. I feel the air here heavy like lead so much that I have to pull deep breaths to breathe. My calloused hands were secretly fiddling with my old hat. I did not dare to put it on. Emily would kill me. This hat is a memory from when I started from nothing to build Hope Ranch. I squeezed it hard, and then slowly I put my hands in my pockets trying to hide the rough figure of a countryman. Suddenly the music stopped. My daughter Emily walked to the center of the stage. She looked beautiful like a queen plated in gold with my sweat and the blood of my cows. In one hand she held the microphone, with the other she hugged the waist of Sarah, my granddaughter, who wore a huge dress shining like a walking Christmas tree. My heart was pounding. This was my moment. The moment when I, her grandfather, who sold his entire heritage, would come out, be introduced, and receive a simple thank you. I squeezed the hat inside my pocket. I had imagined standing next to my daughter. Even if she hates me, we are still family. Emily smiled, a radiant, beautiful smile. But I saw something cold and sharp in her gaze like a freshly sharpened blade. Then she spoke. And before beginning the main party, I want to thank the dedicated service team. They have worked tirelessly over the last few weeks. I frowned. Service. She turned her head. Her gaze passed over me, not with the eyes of a daughter toward her father, but with the look of an owner toward an inanimate object. Then she pointed at me, especially Mr. Samuel, the family's private driver, who has been taking Sarah to her dress fittings all month long. He did not care about the distance, and he was always on time. She paused, waiting. A round of applause for our old driver. Good grief, what I felt at that moment was not a blow. It was a slap. A public slap, echoing among 300 strangers. All the sound in the ballroom seemed to drown out, leaving only the superficial and scattered applause of the guests. They were clapping to show their generosity toward the hosts for having invited the driver to the party, not out of respect for me. Driver, am I not her father? Am I not the one who sold 50 prize bulls to pay for this party of appearances? I stood petrified. I felt my face burn. I saw some contemptuous looks sweeping over my outdated suit and the way I hid in the pillar. I looked at Emily. She was still smiling, but her gaze was no longer a blade. It was a cold message of warning. Shut up and act. You have no choice but to become the miserable role that I already decided for you. I breathed deeply, swallowing the bitterness that rose in my throat. I felt as if someone was crushing my heart, but I could not cry. I am Samuel. An old rancher does not cry in front of the enemy. I knew what I had to do. I adjusted my jacket. I made a bow full of sarcasm that only I understood. Very well, daughter. You want Dad to be the driver. Dad will be the driver. I am not a fool. I am just a man who loved his daughter too much. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and tell us where you are listening from in the comments below. I returned to my corner at the pillar. A waiter passed by and handed me a glass of wine. Cheap wine. Not the kind of fine champagne the guests up there were drinking. I held the glass, feeling the bitter taste of sorrow. I looked down at my hands. Calloused hands. They were rough, thick, hard, like the stones of the creek at Hope Ranch. I remember the day I helped the first prize bull be born, a red Angus covered in blood and mud. These hands have plowed the land, lifted fences, fought against drought, building one of the largest cattle ranches in the region. These hands, gosh, are the map of my life, a life to be proud of. But Emily is different. She was always ashamed of her roots. Emily and Michael, her husband, live in a luxurious rented mansion in the wealthiest area of the city. But on the inside, they are hollow. Their bank accounts are skeletal. They are just freeloaders wrapped in silk and falsehoods. I remembered what Emily said just last week when I went to visit them, and a comment about the price of cattle feed escaped me. Dad, please. My friends are all the high society of the city. If you come to the party, please do not open your mouth to talk about cows and pigs. Do not talk about manure. People are going to judge me. She took a step back, evaluating me with her gaze. From the old hat I left on the sofa to my dusty cowboy boots. It is best that you sit at a separate table. Let no one know that Sarah's grandfather is an old village farmer. My throat went dry. I swallowed that cheap wine in one gulp. I hid my hands inside the lapels of my old suit, trying to conceal them. My calloused hands, what built this entire fortune, are now something I must hide because of my daughter's artificial shame. My money smells good to her, sure, but my person stinks. That bitter feeling my friend is more sour than a shot of tequila without salt. At that moment, I was still looking for excuses for her. She does it for her husband's pride, for Sarah. It all started 6 months ago. I remember the day I arrived at their rented mansion. Although luxurious, I clearly saw the coldness and the emptiness. It had no warmth of a home, only anxiety and bills piled up on the kitchen table. The biggest event, according to Emily, was Sarah's Sweet 16. In our culture, it is the most important event in a daughter's life, a ceremony that marks her 16 years. Emily did not want a normal party. She wanted to show off. She wanted to use this party to recover her status, to cover up the truth that her husband Michael had gone bankrupt, investing in phantom real estate. The problem was, they did not have a single penny. They were drowning in debt with the bank. I sat on the old sofa they bought secondhand. Emily walked in not with the attitude of a daughter, but of a theater actress. She was crying, crocodile tears kneeling at my feet. Dad, I beg you. I know I have been bad, but Sarah is your only granddaughter. I cannot let her be less than her friends. She will not be able to hold her head up if her party is not spectacular. She grabbed my calloused hands, those hands that always disgusted her, now used as props to evoke pity. I need $1 million, Dad. I already calculated everything. The ballroom, the band, the dresses, everything. Sell a bit of land. Sell some cows. Later, when we recover, we will pay you back double. I swear to God. I looked her straight in the eyes. I knew she was lying about paying back the debt. Michael was sitting to one side, saying nothing, just bowing his head, but I saw his furtive gaze fixed on me, seeing me as a wallet with legs. But then I looked at Sarah. My granddaughter walked in saying nothing, just looking at me with those bright eyes full of hope, wearing an immaculate white shirt. I used to carry her to school when she was a little girl. I taught her to ride a horse and to milk cows. Heaven help me, I was always a fool for family. Get up, Emily, I said, lowering my voice. Do not kneel. You are my daughter." I could not say no. The blind love of a father and grandfather beat the suspicion of a shrewd businessman. I gave in not for Emily, but for that bright look from Sarah. I would sell. But this would be the last time. The promise of $1,000,000 was a heavy burden. It was not loose change in the savings account. It was Hope Ranch. I returned to my land, the smell of dry grass, of damp earth, the familiar smell of the cattle. I stood in the middle of the herd of red Angus prize bulls that I had cared for 10 years. They were not just cattle. They were my retirement account, the fruit of a lifetime of work. Each bull was a day of quiet old age. 50 bulls, 50 years. The buyers arrived. They knew I needed money fast to resolve family matters, so they squeezed me on the price. I haggled through tears. I bit my lips and sold the 50 best bulls at a loss, the ones I kept for breeding. They loaded them onto the trucks. Their bellows sounded like the heartbreaking cry of my own conscience. Then it was the 2 hectares of grazing land, the most fertile land where my wife and I buried our first memories. In my whole life, I had never held so much cash. An old leather briefcase full of dollars, fresh money, money that would be burned in one night of frivolous partying. Peter, my neighbor and close friend, approached, seeing how they were taking the cows, and shook his head. "Samuel, you are crazy. Your daughter is a bottomless barrel. She will burn all that money in one night, and then ask you for more. Are you selling your livelihood to buy her fireworks?" Mr. Peter took me by the arm. I saw the pity and the indignation in his old eyes. "What are you going to live on? What do you have left, man?" I only smiled with sadness, trying to look strong. I could not tell him that I sold to maintain the facade of a daughter who was seeking her own ruin. For the children and the grandchildren, a bit of sacrifice does not hurt, friend, I whispered. It is our own blood. One cannot abandon their blood. Only I knew that that was my last excuse for Emily's ingratitude. From the moment the 50 cows left the ranch, I made a silent bet. I bet on gratitude. The money was transferred to Emily's account. Immediately her attitude changed. The pleas and the crying disappeared, replaced by the arrogance of one who has money. She started giving me orders as if she were a queen. She rented the most expensive ballroom in the city. She hired the most famous band that no one dared to invite. She bought a dress with Swarovski crystals for Sarah. Everything paid in my name, but everything was theirs. The conflict began to escalate. The small cracks became large barriers. "Dad, you have to be the driver," she said when my old truck broke down. "Drive the rented SUV to take Sarah to the dress fittings. Do not let her get into your old clunker." I accepted because I wanted to be near my granddaughter, but the closer I got, the more I saw the coldness. The final straw was when I asked for permission. "Emily, I want to invite some old friends from the village to celebrate. Mr. Peter, Mr. Richard." She cut me off abruptly without thinking, as if I had just suggested bringing a pig into the church. "No, absolutely not. Your friends are just old men who smell like manure. Do you want to make me look bad at Sarah's event of the century? This is a 5-star class party, not a cattle fair." I stood motionless, looking at my daughter. My lips moved, but no voice came out. I felt the hot blood rising to my face. I sold my entire heritage so that she could organize this event of the century, and in exchange I was humiliated by the smell of my own sweat and my trade. At that moment I felt a chill down my spine. I understood one thing. Money does not buy love, but it can expose contempt. Emily was not only ashamed of my work, she despised my very person. From that moment I began to change. I kept following her orders, I kept acting my role, but inside the seasoned head of the old farmer Samuel had already begun to calculate. I was no longer looking for acceptance or love. I was looking for justice. Good grief, I remember as if it were yesterday that day, just a week before the party. The day I realized that in my daughter's eyes, I am not a father to be proud of, but a project that needs remodeling. Since I transferred the $1,000,000 to Emily, I tried to do everything possible to fit in. I know I am from the country more accustomed to the smell of dry grass and mud than to Chanel perfume, but I also have my dignity. I wanted to look presentable when taking my granddaughter Sarah by the arm to enter her sweet 16, the moment that any grandfather in our culture dreams of. I drove to the village to the tailor shop of old Robert, the best tailor in the region. I chose a charcoal gray fabric. It was the best fabric he had, thick with a good drape, which did not wrinkle easily when sitting. I imagined myself in that suit, standing straight, looking serious, but kind, like in the black and white photos of my father in his time. I took the suit to the city with my heart excited, like a child taking a good grade to his mom. I arrived at their rented mansion at noon. Emily was sitting in the living room, surrounded by fashion magazines and fabric scraps. She was busy giving orders over the phone to the floral decorator. Upon seeing me enter, she only nodded with indifference. "You arrived? Dad, is something wrong? I am up to my neck in work." I smiled, putting the bag with the suit on the shiny glass table. "I just picked up my suit for the party. Look at it. Do you think this charcoal gray color looks good?" I opened the bag with enthusiasm, took out the jacket, and tried it on over my clothes. I smoothed the lapels, waiting for a compliment, or at least a nod of approval. Emily looked up, looked at the suit, then looked at me. Her eyes narrowed. She wrinkled her fine nose as if I had just brought a piece of raw meat and put it in the middle of her luxurious living room. "What is that, Dad?" Her voice sounded cold, without any emotion. "My new suit," I replied. My smile froze a bit. "The fabric is very good. Robert made it by hand." "It looks like a sack," Emily interrupted with a sharp voice. She got up, approached, and with 2 fingers pinched the sleeve of my jacket as if she were afraid of catching something. "This gray looks too rural. It makes your skin look grayish. And this cut all baggy. Are you going to herd cows or to a gala?" My heart sank. "But I see it as elegant. In the village, everyone said." "This is not the village, Dad," Emily shouted, letting go of my sleeve with contempt. "This is high society. My guests are people with refined taste. Use Armani Hugo Boss. If you put this thing on standing next to them, you're going to look terribly out of place. Do you want to embarrass me?" I stood stunned, still holding the charcoal gray jacket. The excitement of a moment ago vanished, replaced by a feeling of humiliation that flooded me. At that moment, Michael, my dear son-in-law, came down the stairs. He was wearing a wine-colored silk robe, espresso cup in hand, posing like a great lord, although I knew he was unemployed. Seeing the tension, he smiled with mockery, approached, and put his arm around Emily's shoulders. "What is happening, father-in-law? Artistic differences again?" Emily pointed to my suit, sighing with fatigue. "Look, Dad thinks he is going to wear this. I already told him. Only dark colors suit him." Michael looked at me. His gaze swept the suit and stopped at my old face. In his eyes there was a mockery that he did not hide. "Father-in-law," he said with a falsely friendly voice, "my wife is right. That color is difficult to combine. Let us do this better dress in black. A total black suit, white shirt." He paused as if a brilliant idea occurred to him. "And the best thing would be for you to use a black bow tie instead of a tie, so that you look a bit more like the staff. That way you do not clash with the personnel. In fact, if you just dress in black and mix among the crowd, no one is going to be scrutinizing you. Total security." The black bow tie, staff, clash. I looked at Michael, then at Emily. My daughter did not object at all. She even nodded, celebrating her husband's idea. "It is true," Emily said. "Good idea. If you dress like that, you will look more professional. You will avoid people asking you questions. You just stay quiet. If someone asks, just smile." At that moment, I still did not understand all the malice in their words. I only thought they wanted me to dress safely so as not to be criticized. I am an old rancher. What do I know about the hidden rules of the high class? I swallowed the lump in my throat, folded my charcoal gray suit, and put it back in the bag. "It is fine," I said with a hoarse voice. "I will dress in black, as you say." I turned around and left, taking my new suit, my little pride back with me. But deep down, a crack had begun to open. I felt that they had just taken away my right to be a father, and they were forcing me into the mold of a secondary character in their play. The humiliation of the clothes was only the warm-up. The real blow fell on the day of the rehearsal. The rehearsal. I drove the rented car, taking Emily and Sarah to the ballroom early. I waited patiently in the outer lobby, watching the workers hang the lights, roll out the carpet. I imagined the moment of sitting at the table toasting my granddaughter, seeing the result of the money I spent. When everything was almost ready, the event manager brought the official seating plan, a large drawing detailing each place. I approached, excited. "Emily, where do I sit? Let me see if from my place I can see the stage well." I looked for my name in the central area, table of honor, the place for parents, grandparents, and those closest. I saw Emily's name, Michael's. I saw the names of Michael's parents, the in-laws. I saw the names of some partners of Michael that I had never seen, but I did not see the name Samuel Miller. I frowned, looking in the VIP tables next to it. Table 1, table 2, still nothing. My heart started beating faster. Did they forget to print my name? I looked down toward the bottom, moving away from the stage, toward the edge of the map. And then I saw it. Table 25. The name Samuel. It was written tiny, located at the last round table of the room. I lifted my head, looking at the actual location of table 25. My God. It was right in the blind spot. To its right was the busy door of the service area through which the waiters entered and left with trays of hot food. To its left, the door of the men's bathroom. I turned to Emily, with my finger trembling, pointing at the map. "Emily, is there an error? Why is my name here, table 25? Emily was busy arranging the flowers on the main table. Upon hearing me, she stopped. She looked around. Then she pulled me to a secluded corner, avoiding the gaze of the staff. "Dad," she whispered between her teeth, "there is no error. I arranged it like that." "Why?" I asked, my voice starting to rise from the surprise. "I am Sarah's grandfather. I am the one who paid for this party. Why am I going to sit next to the bathroom?" Emily glared at me, annoyed because I dared to raise my voice. "Lower your voice. Do you want people to hear you?" She breathed deeply, and then she spoke with that condescending tone, explaining as if she were talking to a slow child. "Listen, Dad. The main table is for Michael's important business partners and the family of my in-laws. They are people of status. They talk about business, about politics. What are you going to do there?" "I sit there to congratulate my granddaughter, and then what?" Emily interrupted. "And then how are you going to use the cutlery? Do you know how to distinguish the fish fork from the dessert fork? Or are you going to grab the chicken leg with your hand like at home? Do you know how to drink wine, or are you going to take a big gulp as if it were beer?" Each word was like a slap. If you sit at the main table and you drop food, or you start telling stories of cow births or fertilizers to the delegates, where do I put my face? She looked at me with disgust. "You do not belong at that table, Samuel. You are only going to ruin the elegant image that I am building." She softened her voice a bit, faking concern, a falsehood that made me nauseous. "Sit at table 25. From that angle you can see everything. Besides, you are near the kitchen. If you need more wine or a snack, you call the waiter easily. It is quiet. You can eat and drink to your heart's content. You just act like a distant relative. Quiet. And that is it." The blood rushed to my head. My ears were ringing. I sold 50 cows. I sold 2 hectares of land. I gave her $1 million. And in exchange, they sent me to the chicken coop. I was considered a potential threat, a stain that needed to be hidden in the darkest corner of the party. I looked at Emily. For the first time, I no longer saw my daughter. I only saw a strange, greedy, and cruel woman. I did not argue any more. Arguing at that moment made no sense. I only nodded, a heavy nod. "It is fine," I said. "Table 25. I will remember my place." Emily sighed in relief. She gave me a few pats on the shoulder as if rewarding an obedient dog, and returned to her expensive flowers. She did not know that my silence at that moment was more dangerous than any curse. If Emily's cruelty hurt me, I still had one last lifesaver to cling to. "Sarah," I told myself. Emily was spoiled because her husband infected her with those desires to show off. But Sarah is different. She is a girl. She is innocent. She is still the little granddaughter who sat with me on the horse to ride through the ranch. She will understand me. She does not despise me. After the shock of table 25, I wandered through the room and looked for the dressing room. I wanted to see Sarah with her new dress. I wanted to receive a smile from her to calm my bleeding pride. I knocked on the dressing room door and poked my head in. Sarah, sweetie. Sarah was standing in front of the large mirror, turning to see her huge dress with shiny Swarovski stones. Around her were two close friends, phone in hand, the flash firing without stopping. Upon seeing me enter, Sarah's smile went out suddenly. It was replaced by panic. "Grandpa!" she exclaimed. Her voice was not of joy, but of annoyance. "Why are you coming in right now?" I took a step forward, thinking of opening my arms to praise her. "Grandpa wanted to see how his princess looks. You are beautiful, Sarah." "Stop. Do not come in," Sarah shouted, putting her hand forward as if stopping a wild beast. She turned toward the phone that was on a tripod. "Get out, Grandpa." "My friends are doing a live stream on Instagram. Everyone is watching me try on the dress." I stood frozen. "And what of it, honey? I just wanted to say hello." "Look at how you are," she pointed at me with a shrill voice. "You have that old shirt and you are all sweaty." "You have your hair all messy. You look ridiculous on camera. My friends are going to ask who you are." She looked at my appearance with the same eyes as her mother. "Shame you are going to ruin the shot for me. Wait outside. When I finish, I will call you." Then she turned her back on me. She continued posing in front of the phone camera. The industrial smile returned to her lips, and she said sweetly to the screen, "Forgive everyone. Right now it was this? Just the cleaning guy who came in to pick something up. Let us continue." The cleaning guy. I felt as if someone had crushed my old heart. A crack echoed in my chest, clearer than a dry branch breaking. The granddaughter I adored, the only motivation for which I sold my heritage, whom I always defended, now saw me as a stain. She did not hate me, I know that. But worse than hatred, she considered me a nuisance, something that lowered the value of her image on social media. Her mother's vanity had gotten into her blood, turning her into a hollow and cruel copy. I stepped back and closed the dressing room door. I leaned against the cold hallway wall. I wanted to cry, but the tears did not come out. The pain was so great that it paralyzed even the crying. And then a change occurred inside me. That feeling of weakness of a father's and grandfather's tolerance vanished. It evaporated like dew before the strong sun. It was replaced by a hardness like a rock. I wiped the sweat from my forehead. I adjusted my shirt collar. Old men do not cry. They calculate. If love no longer has value in this family, then I will use the only language they understand, money and power. I left the ballroom toward the parking lot under the scorching sun. I got into my old truck. I started the engine, the sound of the engine loud and familiar like the beating of my heart. I drove straight to the largest car dealership in downtown Chicago. There in the showroom of gleaming glass, a late-model pearl-white SUV was parked in the most important spot. On the hood, it had a giant red bow. That was the surprise gift that I had set aside in secret since last month. I planned to bring it onto the stage, give the keys to Sarah, and see the overflowing happiness of the girl. I thought it would be the moment to heal all the distances. The salesman saw me enter and ran to receive me. "Hello, Mr. Miller. The car is ready. Do you want to take it right now?" I stood in front of the luxurious car, seeing my old and seasoned reflection in the shiny paint. In my head appeared the image of Sarah kicking me out. "Just the cleaning guy who came in to pick something up. Should I cancel the reservation, get the money back, and go back to the village? No. That would be too soft. They would only think I am a stingy old man who fled." I turned toward the salesman, my face showing no emotion. "Yes, I am taking it. Take it to the ballroom at the exact time." "But—" I took a piece of paper from my pocket. "I want to change the name of the registration. no longer in Sarah's name. Register it in my name, Samuel Miller. Yes, sir. Anything else? Yes. I walked to a quiet corner of the showroom and took out my phone. It was time to activate Plan B, the plan that I prayed I would never have to use. I dialed the number of Mr. Miller, the attorney. He is a lawyer, a notary public, and my closest friend since school. The only one who knows exactly how much money I have and what I have sacrificed. Hello, Samuel, sounded the warm voice of the lawyer. Getting ready for the party. Miller, I said with an icy voice cutting off the greeting, listen to me carefully. I need you to do me an urgent favor, right now. Did something serious happen? Your voice sounds strange. More serious than you think. I want you to prepare the transfer papers. I want to buy the mansion that Emily is renting, immediately. Contact the owner. Pay higher if necessary, but I want the process completed before midnight. Put it in my name. There was a silence on the other end of the line from the shock. Samuel, what are you thinking of doing? It is your daughter's house. It is my daughter's rented house, and she is about to be evicted for owing the rent. I am just cleaning up. And one more thing. I breathed deeply, looking at the busy street. Prepare the will again. I want to change the heir to Hope Ranch. Erase Emily. Erase Sarah. Are you sure, old friend, this is a path of no return? I am sure. It is time. My daughter wants me to be the driver. Well, I will be the driver. But I will be the one who takes the wheel of this family, and I am going to drive it my way. Finish the papers and come to the party. Stay in a discreet corner. Wait for my signal. I hung up. I felt an emptiness in my soul, but my mind was strangely lucid. The game had changed. Night fell over Chicago. The yellowish streetlights gave way to the brilliant crystal lights of the ballroom. Luxury cars filled the courtyard. Mercedes, BMW, Audi, gleaming, elegant. I did not drive the new SUV. I drove my '90 Ford truck, old with peeling paint, full of road dust and smelling like manure. On purpose, I parked it in a far corner, but visible enough so that it was noticed how out of place it was among so many super-luxury cars. I got out of the car. I adjusted the black bow tie on my neck, that bow tie that Michael suggested. I looked exactly like an old and finished waiter. I walked toward the main entrance where the red carpet was rolled out. The music was already starting to play cheerfully. 2 huge security guards with earpieces blocked the entrance. Upon seeing me approach, one raised his hand to stop me, sweeping me with a gaze from head to toe with contempt. Hey, old man, you have the wrong place, he said dryly. The VIP entrance is here. The entrance for personnel cleaning and waiters is through the back of the kitchen. Go around to the back alley. I stopped, lifted my head, and looked at him. I am a guest, I said quietly. Guest? He laughed with mockery. What guest arrives in that clunker? What guest dresses as if he were going to a funeral? Do not argue any more. The manager is looking for dishwashers. Go to the back to ask for work. I did not get angry. Anger was a luxury at this moment. It only seemed funny to me. I am the father of the hostess, the father of Mrs. Emily. The guard paused, looking at me with doubt. He looked at my appearance. Then he looked toward the luxurious ballroom. The contrast was so great that he did not dare to believe it. He turned on his radio. To Central. There is an old man at the main entrance. He says he is the father of Mrs. Emily. He looks a bit ragged. Confirm that for me. I had to wait there under the cold wind before the curious looks of other guests who were entering. It took about 10 minutes for Emily to send someone. She did not come out herself to receive me. She sent a young event organizer running outside. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Samuel, said the girl with a look of pity. The truth is that she could not come out. Follow me, please. The girl did not take me through the red carpet. She took me sneaking through a side hallway, so as not to obstruct the flow of the important guests. I entered the ballroom. The dazzling light, the penetrating smell of perfume, the clinking of glasses, clashing. I saw Emily and Michael standing in the center, laughing, falsely receiving congratulations. Sarah standing to one side, splendid like a princess. A perfect family. A beautiful picture painted with my money. The employee took me through the crowd toward the dark corner near the bathroom door. "Here is your place. Table 25. I sat in the empty chair. Around me were bags, coats of the guests from other tables thrown there temporarily. I sat shrinking in my black suit, fiddling with a glass of water. I looked toward the stage. I looked at those fake smiles. Inside, I started the countdown. Laugh, children. Laugh loud. Enjoy these last minutes. Because when Dad stands up, that smile will be the most expensive thing you will have ever paid for in your life." The party of punishment had begun. I sat in the chair at table 25, a large round table covered with an immaculate white tablecloth, but on top it was completely empty. There were no fresh floral arrangements like at the other tables. There were no aromatic candles, only a cheap bottle of water and a few glasses upside down. Around me were the brand name bags, the coats that the guests from tables B and P were too lazy to carry and threw there temporarily. Above my head, a small acrylic sign said, coldly, "Coat room area for the organizing committee." I smiled slightly, a crooked smile. Emily had turned her own father into a mobile coat rack. From this dead point, I looked toward the stage and the area of the table of honor. There, a warm and golden light wrapped my daughter's family like a celestial halo. Michael stood up to toast his belly, trembling with each fake laugh he let out with the businessman sitting next to him. Emily looked radiant, constantly tilting her head to whisper, with the in-law throwing looks once in a while to control the entire room. And Sarah, my granddaughter, sitting in the middle like a little queen, sliding her finger on her phone with a face of boredom without even touching the lobster plate in front of her. They are in paradise, and I, the one who paid to build that paradise, am sitting next to the bathroom door. Every time the bathroom door swung open, a gust of cold air mixed with the smell of cleaner and cheap perfume hit my nose. The guests who came out from doing their needs looked at me, an old man in a black suit, sitting alone and isolated, with a look of curiosity mixed with pity. There was someone who even whispered, "Surely he is the old guard they let rest for a while." Solitude and humiliation began to eat away at me. Not because I desired attention, but because I realized that I was totally invisible in the eyes of my own blood. And then it happened. The drop that overflowed the glass. A young waiter with his forehead soaked in sweat came running in a hurry from the kitchen. In his hands he carried a large tray full of half-drunk wine glasses, dirty napkins, and shrimp shells. He was in a hurry, probably pressured by the manager. Passing running by table 25, seeing me sitting there with my black suit and sitting in the employee area, he stopped short. He did not look at my face. He only looked at my clothes. "Hey, boss, can you give me a hand with this tray to take it back? I have to go to the bar for more champagne urgent." "The ones at table 1 are hurrying me. Help me a little bit, please." He shoved the heavy and disgusting tray into my hands. He did not even wait for me to answer. He turned around and ran off. I stood petrified. In my hands I had the tray full of the trash of the party. The smell of sour wine and food scraps rose to my brain. A bright red lipstick mark stained the edge of a glass that rolled right in front of my face. My God, I am Samuel Miller. I am the owner of 500 hectares of land. I am the one who pays the salary of 100 workers. I am the one who signed the check for $1 million for this party, and now they send me to do errands like a busboy. Emily's arrangement had been so perfect that it became cruel. She had completely erased my identity as a father, turning me into a service tool in the literal sense before the eyes of everyone. I looked down at my calloused hands that were trembling, holding the dirty tray. The hot blood rushed to my face, and then it went down very fast, leaving a numbing cold. Slowly I put the tray on the table, pushing it away. I stood up, went to the bathroom. I opened the tap, letting the water come out with force. I washed my hands. I scrubbed my hands hard with soap, wanting to wash away all that smell of contempt that had just stuck to me. I looked at myself in the mirror, a seasoned old man, with sunken eyes but burning in fire. "Do you want me to be the staff, Emily?" I whispered to my image in the mirror. "It is fine. I am going to serve you a dessert that you will not be able to swallow in your entire life." I returned to my seat just when the music changed to a soft waltz. The entrance had ended. Now was the moment to start the official ceremony. The lights in the room went out suddenly, leaving only the spotlight pointing directly at the stage. Emily took the microphone and went out. She was radiant, confident, completely dominating the space. She began her speech of thanks. She thanked God, her husband, her in-laws, the business partners who I well knew were their creditors. Her voice was sweet, moving, making everyone be on the edge of tears. Then she paused. She directed her gaze toward the dark corner where I was. It was the moment to complete the script she had carefully written for me. She smiled, a perfect but soulless smile. "And before beginning the main party," her voice echoed, "I want to dedicate a special thank you to the dedicated service team of tonight. They have worked very hard." She lifted her hand, pointing directly at table 25. The light of the spotlight swept the room and stopped right on me. It dazzled me. I had to squint my eyes. "Especially Mr. Samuel," Emily said loudly, emphasizing each word. "The family's private driver who drove to take Sarah to her dress fittings all month, regardless of the weather. A round of applause for our old driver, so dutiful." Clap, clap, clap. The applause sounded scattered. The guests looked toward me, nodding, celebrating the kindness and generosity of the hosts for honoring a simple employee. They looked at me with pity. Poor old man, so old and still has to be a driver. Driver. She did not call me Dad. She took away my title of father right in front of 300 witnesses. I saw Emily looking at me fixedly. In her gaze flashed a sharp warning. "Get up. Make the bow. Do not ruin my play." I breathed deeply. The air in my chest weighed like lead. I stood up. I adjusted the black bow tie on my neck. I walked out of the shadow of the pillar, standing straight under the blinding light. I looked at Emily. I looked at Michael. I looked at Sarah. Then I bowed my head. A deep, slow, exaggerated bow, like that of a mime. The audience clapped louder. They thought I was moved, but only I knew that that bow was a farewell. Farewell to Samuel the weak father. Farewell to Samuel the blind grandfather. I lifted my head. The corner of my lips curved in a sarcastic smile that the distance prevented Emily from noticing. "Very well, daughter. You want Dad to be the driver. Dad will be the driver. And tonight, Dad is going to drive this family straight off the cliff." After that moving presentation, the party went to the part of the toast and the gifts. This is the part where the true nature of my daughter's family is exposed naked. The master of ceremonies, a guy with gelled hair, started to enliven the atmosphere. The guests passed one by one to the stage to give their gifts. I was sitting at table 25, observing like an old eagle observes the vultures pecking at the carrion. Each time someone went up with a thick envelope or a small jewelry box, a sign of diamond or gold, Emily and Michael's eyes lit up. They laughed, talked, hugged effusively. The one who gave the gift. Michael gave pats on the back to his creditors, whispering empty promises. I knew perfectly well that the money collected tonight would evaporate immediately into the pockets of the whisperers, or worse, into new brand-name items to patch the hollow facade they had. Then the MC took the microphone and shouted excitedly, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, the most awaited moment of the night, a secret gift, a giant gift that the parents have prepared for Princess Sarah for her 16th birthday." The drum roll sounded. The giant LED screen behind the stage lit up. On the screen appeared the image of a late-model luxury SUV, pearl white, gleaming, parked right in front of the ballroom. On the hood, it had a giant red bow. "Oh!" the whole room exclaimed, surprised. The murmurs of admiration did not stop. "My God, what a car this family really spends! At 16 and already with an SUV. Surely Michael did incredible in business." Sarah shouted with joy. She jumped around. She hugged her mom hard. Then she turned to hug her dad. She was crying. Tears of real happiness, but happiness for the material. "I love you. Thank you. Thank you. I am the happiest person in the world." Michael stood in the middle of the stage, puffing out his chest, receiving the looks of admiration. He lifted his hand, greeting like a movie star, nodding to confirm his fake wealth. "Everything for my beloved daughter," he said to the microphone with a powerful voice. "Dad wants you to have the best start." I watched how he stole my credit shamelessly. He, a guy who did not even have $100 in his pocket, was standing there proud over my sweat, my tears, and my lost cattle. The scene was ridiculous. It looked like a black comedy. I put my hand in my pants pocket, squeezing the cold key fob of the car. They are drunk on victory. They think the car is already there, that it is already theirs. They do not know that that car is not a gift. It is the bait, and the greedy fish already bit the hook. "And now," continued shouting the MC, "we invite the true owner, the person who silently prepared this gift, to go up to the stage to deliver in their own hand the gold key to the small owner." The whole room kept silence, looking in all directions. Everyone thought it would be a mysterious partner, or maybe some rich grandparents. At table 25, I stood up. I adjusted the lapels of the black jacket. I smoothed my gray hair. I breathed deeply, savoring the sweet and bitter taste of the revenge that was coming. I came out of the shadows. Tap, 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 the sound of my shoes hitting the wood of the floor, at first muffled by the music. But as I advanced toward the VIP zone, people started to notice. An old employee walking straight toward the stage. I walked slowly with poise. I no longer had the slouched posture of the old farmer. My back was straight, my gaze fixed without blinking. I passed by the tables full of wasted food. I passed among the looks of surprise and confusion. What is that old man doing? Why is the driver going up? Surely he is going to clean something. I arrived at the foot of the stairs that went up to the stage. Emily was the first to see me. The smile on her lips went out. Her face changed color from pink to white like paper. She threw herself to the edge of the stage, trying to block me. She hissed with a voice full of panic, but trying to contain herself so that the guests would not hear. "Dad, what the hell are you doing? Get down right now." I did not stop. I went up the first step. "Are you crazy?" whispered Emily with eyes wide open. "Do you want to make me look bad right now? Go to your place. Do not make security take you down by force." Michael also ran pale as a ghost. "Father-in-law, what is happening? Let us go behind the stage to talk." I pushed Michael's hand away. A soft but authoritative slap. He stumbled back. I went up to the highest podium. The light of the spotlight hit me directly, blinding me for a second. But I recovered fast. I stood between Emily and Michael. I stood blocking Sarah. I stretched out my hand and snatched the microphone from the MC, who was stunned. Zzz. The high-pitched squeal of the feedback for grabbing the microphone wrong echoed, breaking the noisy air. The whole room gave a jump, covering their ears. All the murmurs went out. Absolute silence. 300 pairs of eyes fixed on the old driver, standing with pride on the stage. Microphone in hand, expressionless face. I looked down at the crowd. I saw the made-up faces, the expensive jewels. I saw the curiosity, the contempt, and also the fear in their eyes. I turned to see Emily. She was trembling, clutching her dress hard. She knew. At this moment she knew that the monster she created, the wound of a father, had escaped from the cage. I took the microphone to my mouth. My voice sounded grave and deep without trembling, bringing the echo of the wind and the earth of Hope Ranch. "Good evening, everyone." I made a pause. "I am Samuel." I looked sideways at Emily, letting out a slight smile. "As my daughter just introduced me so clearly a while ago, I am the driver of this family." A few nervous giggles sounded in the audience. They thought it was an act of comedy. But the laughter died immediately when they saw my sharp gaze. "But you know," I continued, hardening my voice, "being a driver for this family is very heavy, much heavier than driving a car." I lifted my calloused hands high under the light. The calluses, the scars of the fieldwork, were clearly visible. To be able to be a driver, to be able to be standing here tonight, I had to do a job that none of you here present would want to do. I looked directly at Michael, who had his head bowed. I had to sell my 50 prize bulls, the best ones. I had bulls that I raised for more than 10 years. The murmurs started to arise. Sell bulls. Why, I had to sell 2 hectares of grazing land, the most fertile where the memories of my ancestors are buried. I raised my voice more, each word like a hammer blow on the coffin of Emily's honor. I had to work 40 years, sell my own blood and flesh to collect $1 million in cash. I pointed to the 7-tier cake. I pointed to the band. I pointed to the wine glasses on the tables. All that money just to pay for this luxurious party of tonight, so that you have wine to drink, so that you have music to dance to, and so that my daughter can stand here boasting to you that she is rich, when in reality she does not have a single penny in her pocket. Boom! The ballroom seemed to explode. The exclamations of amazement echoed. What? He paid Emily, lied. My God, poor old man. Emily stood petrified. The blood left her face, leaving her white as a corpse. She made the attempt to throw herself, to take the microphone from me, but her legs failed her. She could not believe that I dared to tell the naked and humiliating truth in front of everyone. I looked at her, my gaze already without a drop of affection. As you see, I said, returning to a quiet tone that gave fear, being a driver like me comes out very expensive. But tonight I did not come to drive. I came to collect what is owed to me. I put my hand in my pocket where the key fob rested. It was time for the next blow. I stayed on the podium, microphone in hand, seeing the crowd that was mute after confessing the origin of the money. The air in the ballroom thickened, tense like a rope about to break. Emily was standing at my side, trembling like a leaf in a storm. Her agitated breathing was clearly heard in this terrifying silence. But the play had not finished. It was barely the prelude. On the giant LED screen behind me, the image of the pearl-white SUV with the red bow kept shining like a promise of luxury. Sarah, my granddaughter, was still standing there. She had heard everything I said about selling cows, selling land. But my God, in her eyes, there was not even a bit of compassion for her grandfather's sacrifice. On the contrary, her eyes were glued to the pocket of my jacket where the keys were. She took a step forward, extending her hand full of silver rings. Her young face, excessively made up, showed a naked greed that hurt to see. She did not care how many cows I sold. She only cared if the car had already arrived. "Grandpa," whispered Sarah with her voice trembling from the emotion, ignoring her parents' attention. "The keys. It is my car, right? Give them to me." I looked at that small hand, the hand that I used to take for walks, to which I taught how to milk. Now it opened like a sucker, waiting to suck the last drops of my blood. Slowly I put my hand in my pocket. I took out the key fob. The light of the spotlight hit the shiny metal. The clinking sounded small but sharp, echoing in the whole ballroom that held its breath. Sarah's pupils dilated. She smiled a smile of victory. She thought that whatever happened, this old man from the ranch was going to double over before her. I put the keys in front of her face, just a few inches from her hand, and then I withdrew my hand. I squeezed the keys in my calloused fist, and with calm, I put them back in the pocket of my black jacket. Sarah's smile went out. She stayed reaching for the air. "Grandpa," she exclaimed with her voice lost. I approached the microphone. My voice was no longer of lament. It changed to a cold, sarcastic, sharp tone, like a machete. "Wait a moment, Sarah," I said word by word. "I just remembered something important, a lesson that your own mother gave me." I turned to see Emily. She looked at me with eyes of plea, shaking her head, begging that I did not continue. But I did not stop. "Your mother warned me very clearly before this party. The driver must know his place. He cannot give more expensive gifts than the bosses." "Oh!" The murmur below the stage exploded like a hornet's nest. The looks were fixed on Emily. I continued with a voice of steel. "This car is too luxurious, Sarah. It is worth a fortune. It is imported. I am only an old driver who smells like manure and sweat. If I give you this car, I am afraid." I made a pause, looking directly into my granddaughter's eyes. "I am afraid that it will give you shame." It will give you pity with your friends to know that this gift comes from the dirty hands of your grandfather. Your mom said that my presence embarrasses the family. Then my gift surely also is an insult, right? Sarah turned pale. She stammered, "No, I do not. I want the car." "It cannot be," I cut off sharply. "I have to take care of your image, a high society young lady like you. How is she going to get into a car that an old farmer bought for her? Your friends on the live stream are going to mock you." I gave a few pats on my pocket where the keys rested. So I already decided. I'm going to keep this car. I looked at the crowd, smiling sideways. I'm going to use it to work as an unlicensed taxi in Chicago. At least it will help me get money for beans instead of becoming a useless ornament for vanity. Sarah stayed frozen. She looked at me, then she looked at her mom. The disappointment turned into a little girl's tantrum. She kicked the floor, shouting, "You lie! You promised it! Stingy old man!" That phrase was the final point. Below, the comments no longer kept discretion. They pointed. They shook their head. They laughed. My God, what a rude girl. What kind of education did they give her? Emily is paying for her sins, Lev. Emily was standing there without a drop of blood in her face. She understood that not only did I not give her the car, I used the car as a trap to naked her greed and her terrible education in front of all the people. I hit her in what hurt her most. The appearances. The stage became a chaos. Michael threw himself trying to snatch the microphone from me or take me down by force, but two huge guards, the ones I had hired in secret from before, came out immediately from the curtains blocking his path. "Please keep calm," said a guard, coldly pushing Michael back. I stayed quiet, adjusting my jacket. I did not need to use violence. My weapon was much more fearsome than fists. I looked at my watch. It was 0 hour. I turned my face toward the dark corner to the right of the stage. I nodded slightly. From the darkness, a man came out. He wore a charcoal gray suit, exactly like the one I thought of using at the beginning, but that they despised me. He brought an old leather briefcase, but full of power. It was Miller, the lawyer. Miller's appearance was as if death entered a birthday party. In our culture, when a respected lawyer appears from nowhere, with briefcase in hand, everyone knows there is a big legal trouble. Emily saw Miller, and for the first time in the night, I saw in her eyes pure terror. She knew Miller. She knew that he handled all my land papers, and that he was here now was a presage of death. Miller went up to the podium without saying a word. He opened the briefcase. He took out a large yellow envelope with the red seal of the notary. He gave me the envelope. I held the envelope in my hand, feeling its weight. I turned toward Emily. "Madam Boss Emily," I said with a tone full of sarcasm, "since you defined that our relationship is of boss and employee, of renter and farmhand, then this farmhand asks permission to liquidate all pending accounts before resigning." "Dad, what are you going to do?" she stammered from the shoulder of her husband. "When I sold the cows, I not only sold to pay for the party," I said, breaking slowly the seal of the envelope. The sound of the paper tearing was heard dry. "I sold to have enough cash to fix some financial little problems that my daughter and her husband have been hiding." I took out a thick bunch of papers. "This is the file of the mansion where you live. That mansion with a pool with a garden where you always take photos, boasting that it is your millionaire's nest." Michael's face decomposed. He knew what was coming. "You tell everyone that it is your house, but the reality is that you only rent it. And worse." I passed a page, lifting it high. "You owe 6 months of rent. The owner already sent a judicial order and an eviction order." The crowd exclaimed, surprised. Mocking laughs were heard. "So much cream to their tacos, and it turns out they live on rent and do not even pay." I looked directly at Emily, throwing the final blow. "To save a bit of the last honor that is left to the Miller, last name, I contacted the owner. I used the rest of the money from the sale of my lands to buy that mansion. Deeded, and in my name this very afternoon." I threw the file at Michael's chest, making him stumble. "In other words, my dear son-in-law, the roof under which you hide, the bed where you sleep, Now it is legal property of mine, of this old driver of the ranch. The silence that covered the room gave more fear than any shout. Emily fell on her knees to the floor. She understood that not only did I take away the car, I had her by the neck. But it had not finished. The revenge was not cold enough. "Dad, did you buy the house?" Emily lifted her gaze. Her tearful eyes shone with a fragile hope. "Then it is Dad's house. You're going to let us live there, right? We are your children." I looked at her and let out a laugh. A dry, bitter laugh. "Live—" I turned toward Miller, taking out another paper. "Emily, did you already forget? I am only the driver." "Where's a driver going to get money from to maintain an entire high society family like you? The driver needs money for his old age." I lifted the new paper. "This is the purchase and sale contract, signed at 1800 hours of today. Immediately after buying the mansion, I sold it to a large hotel group that wants to expand." Emily's eyes rolled. "I already sold it, a bit cheaper than the market price so that it would go out fast. And in the contract, there's a special clause." But I read loudly, clearly, each letter. "The selling party commits to deliver the property empty, free of occupants and personal goods in a period of 48 hours from the signature." 48 hours, 2 days. You have exactly 2 days, I said with a voice cold as ice, to clean your mess and get out of that house. And remember not to take anything that is not yours. The furniture from the TV to the sofa. I also sold them with the house." "Dad." "Better kill me," shouted Emily, throwing herself to hug my legs. 48 hours. Where are we going to go? We do not have a single penny. Dad, do not do this to us." I pulled my leg away, stepping back. And at that moment, the true tragedy began. Not because of me, but because of their own internal crack. Michael, who had been stunned by the shock, suddenly exploded. He did not throw himself at me. He turned against his wife. The cowardly nature of a useless, cornered man came to the surface. He grabbed Emily by the hair, pulling her back. "Damn it!" he roared, spitting saliva. "Did you not say that your dad was a stupid old rancher, easy to trick? Did you say he would do whatever you wanted? And now what? Eh?" "Let go of me!" shouted Emily, scratching her husband's hands. "You ruined me. I told you not to exaggerate. Now we are going to the street. What am I going to pay my debts with?" Michael gave a slap to Emily. Pock, a brutal slap in the middle of the luxurious stage in front of 300 guests in front of his 16-year-old daughter. Emily fell to the floor, hitting her head against the speaker. The fake crown she wore fell off and rolled across the floor. "Your dad is crazy, and you are a useless thing," Michael kept insulting, kicking the very expensive gala dress. The whole room shouted, horrified. The phone's recording did not stop. The scene of the happy, elegant, high-class family now became a neighborhood fight, vulgar and miserable. Sarah was standing there, crying out loud. "Dad, Mom, do not hit each other anymore. What a shame." I stood seeing the scene with my soul quiet like a lake. I did not get involved. That was the price they had to pay. The shame lets the rot inside be seen. "There it is," I whispered only for myself. "That is the true face of the high society you're so proud of, Emily." Security went up to separate the couple. They subdued Michael, who panted like a wounded animal. Emily was lying on the floor, her makeup run looking more miserable than ever. She lifted her swollen eyes to look at me. She knew she had lost the house, the car, the husband. She only had one last burning nail to cling to, the root. "Dad," she murmured, crawling toward me. "I was wrong. Forgive me. Punish me as you want. But please do not abandon me. I am going to the village with you. I am going to start again." She sobbed. "And what is going to happen with Hope Ranch, Dad, the land of the grandparents?" "Do not sell it. Yes, that is my house. Sarah is your granddaughter." I looked at her. Until the last minute, she kept thinking about the goods. She thought that whatever happened, the blood always wins. She thought that the ranch by right belonged to her. I made a sign to Miller. Miller read the last document. Miller nodded, taking out the most important paper, the new will. He cleared his throat, reading loudly to the microphone. According to the last will of Mr. Samuel Miller, drafted and notarized at 16:30 hours of today. The room kept a sepulchral silence. Emily held her breath. The totality of the property of Hope Ranch, including the 500 hectares of land, the remaining cattle agricultural machinery, and the entire balance of the retirement savings account. Emily closed her eyes, waiting to hear her name. Is transferred as unique and total inheritance to Mr. Miller made a pause of a second. Matthew Jackson. Emily opened her eyes suddenly. What Matthew? That farmhand? I took the microphone. My voice thundered. Where is Matthew? Stand up, boy. Far off at table 30, the table for the drivers and domestic help of the other families, a middle-aged man stood up. It was Matthew, my foreman, who has worked with me since he was 15 years old. A man with skin burned by the sun, with hands as calloused as mine. He wore an old but well-ironed shirt, holding a worn hat in his hand. Matthew was stunned. He did not believe what he heard. He looked around. Then he looked at me with a total confusion. Boss, stammered Matthew. That is right, Matthew, I said, softening the voice. You did not hear wrong. I turned toward Emily, looking directly at her face, deformed by the shock. You ask me about the blood. You ask me about the right of inheritance. I pointed toward Matthew. Matthew took care of the cattle when I was sick. Matthew stayed awake all night when the hurricane hit to reinforce the pens. Matthew never turned up his nose at my dirty hands. Matthew never forced me to sit next to the bathroom. I approached Emily. I leaned in to whisper to her, but loudly enough for the room to hear. The blood that despises you is like a stranger. The stranger that respects you, that is with you in the good and the bad. That is your true family. I straightened up, declaring with firmness, I prefer to leave my heritage to a man who knows how to value my sweat, than to leave it to a ball of vultures that only wait for me to die, to have fun. Matthew deserves it 1,000 times more than you. Matthew down there broke into tears. He did not run to the stage. He did not shout. He only stayed there, bowing deeply to greet me with tears rolling down his cheeks. That was the gratitude of a decent person. As for Emily, she collapsed completely. She had lost everything, not only the money, but the right to be my daughter. The party ended in chaos. There was no cake. There was no dance. The guests were leaving behind poisonous gossip. They looked at Emily's family as if they were trash. I did not stay a single second more. That stage already suffocated me. I went down the steps. Miller walked at my left. Matthew ran to walk at my right. 2 men without my blood, but protecting me like family. I walked straight to the main exit. There, the pearl-white SUV was still parked majestic. The car that I kept. I took out the key. I pressed the button. The lights flickered. The horn sounded beep, beep cheerfully. I opened the door. I got into the driver's seat. It smelled like new leather. The soft seat hugged my old and tired back. I started the engine. The sound was soft, powerful. Just when I was putting on the seatbelt, a shadow came flying out of the ballroom. It was Sarah. She no longer had the princess poise. Her dress was torn by the shoves, the makeup run by the tears. She was running barefoot. The heels she had lost, who knows where. She ran desperate toward the car, panting. She threw herself against the driver's window, hitting with an open hand, pum-pum on the glass. "Grandpa, Grandpa, open up!" she shouted with a broken voice. "Take me with you, Grandpa, do not leave me. My parents are killing each other in there. I am very afraid." I turned to see her through the tinted glass. "Grandpa, the car is mine. You promised it. Let me get in. I'm going to behave well. I am not going to do live streams anymore." I looked deep into her eyes. I looked for a bit of affection, a bit of real regret. But no. In the depth of her eyes, I only saw fear of losing her security, and the greed that kept burning low. She did not want to go with her grandfather. She wanted to get into this luxury car to flee from the shame. She wanted the car. If I open the door now, I am going to soften again, and the tragedy is going to repeat itself. I put my hand on the button for the rearview mirror. I turned the mirror to one side so as not to have to see her deformed face pleading anymore. I did not lower the glass. I did not say goodbye. I put it in gear. My foot pressed soft the accelerator. The car advanced, rolling. Grandpa, do not go. Sarah ran after the car a stretch, hitting the bodywork. But then her strength ran out. She fell on her knees on the cold asphalt. Her image became tiny, tinier in the rearview mirror, until it disappeared into the night. I drove, leaving the gate mixing with the traffic of Chicago. I opened the sunroof. The wind of the night came in fresh. For the first time in months, I felt that I could breathe. The driver finished his shift. The passenger who lost the trip, or worse, the passenger who does not know how to value the driver, let her walk home. I turned on the radio. An old country song started to play. I hummed it low, driving toward the south, toward the green pastures, where I am going to start again, with empty hands, but with peace in my soul. Goodbye, ball of vultures.